40 for the rapper, busy man shit, nigga. They take their head over, nigga.
I read what Eve did to Adam, I just pray my love don't lie to me. Swing the iron like Samson, I can't let no holder lie to me. I don't feel these rappers, all they lies is hypocrisy. Ain't no competition, ain't no rivalry. Niggas think I'm playing, I don't hear one word they saying, this shit light work. Think Muhammad one of us, he might lose his life first. Circle up and stay alert, another cop can stretch the nigga. He a demon, this an exorcism, watch I bless the nigga. You took that oath in blood, then you know I'm gon' get active with you. From the opposition, I see vision, let me paint the picture. Rappers claim they spit and I ain't listening, is effective. If revenge was a woman, now I scope that bitch like Jacob. So Tower War, we gon' run the summer, it's gon' be historical. Thought they making plays, made them niggas call the audible. Ask who run this shit, but that question is rhetorical. Bitch, I'm the one, me cookies with the oil. I'ma get them crackers, hell, should've never kidnapped my family. I can't be too baby, bet I be the last nigga standing. Do a life sentence for my niggas, pray you understand me. I might put a switch on this Glock and call it young baby. How you real trigger know them dots? You a bird feeder, claiming he a demon. What's a demon to a cold leader? When he said something, I ain't hear him. This shit like it ain't on who got the gun, it's on who gon' up that pipe first. I turn a bad situation to a game change. Bring soldiers from the dead, just raised up the chain. Six shots, I'ma look like Aaron Jones when I run it. Never bite the hand and feet, so you'll never get that hand back. He bitchin' about 10%, I don't wanna hear none of that. He dropping sword, fuck him, just make sure you get that cover back. Look around, he ain't with us, probably cause he never was. Now my chin like you with the angels for your brothers. Everybody wanna be Richard Porter, God kill him like Alpo. Play if he want, it's laying in the trunk like Lee Malvo. A certified woman's ass nigga, I am not a toy. Hey, out with that hollow sign, yeah, this the rim accord. Feel like Gullah Jake when I'm in Fayetteville, you feel your boy. Still up on my bread, still I think that's all that I do. The way I get that boy lost, they gon' start to call him Elroy. Fuck his game, pop out on them demons like I'm Hellboy.
I got you. Let it ride real quick. Look. The city eyes. It's time to vote God. My God, a real nigga. Cause he wasn't no flaw. Posted on the corner like a watchdog. Family secure, got that shotty in the closet by the mob ball. Fuck what they heard, but tell them it's all true. Be cautious, that foundation falls till you fall through. They gon' fall. Look, I keep this shit 50 times two. Ain't no more heart in this game, I'm John Q. You told it in the avalanche, way above average. Revenge taste sweet, told him make me an apple tree. Left us in the valley full of bones, this where hope found. Java, come on, man, dark sands get broke down. Riding through Evans to a mall quad, telling me how the crackers turn this child into a ghost town. Focus out, nigga, I lay that game down. I feel his pain, cause nothing is the same now. Let my light shine like heaven through a rain cloud. Glock have a fit like my child, no tangent. Try to warn them niggas we bear arms like tarantulas. Them mother niggas rap, I make anthems. I really seen profits under this banner. Made my enemies bow down on camera. Told my design I wanted black and white like a panda. I'm better than that nigga that sunk dirty Diana. Look, I move like a Brazilian, precious cargo, spirit ancient, but I got a new semi-auto. Wave that bitch around like where's Wardo. Sleep if they won't, I cut through they Z's like I'm Zorro. Pay me for his name, so I gotta keep that steel clutch. Trust me, I'm not what you think. I squeeze till it click like Dorothy when the heels touch. The world got me dumb, I don't feel much. Ride around with Yaradon, just left the state bridge. Looking for a bitch better than Baby's kid. Remember I dropped Quiet Storm, I've been gone ever since. Still in the field, fuck them niggas on the fence,
They killed, give me Isaiah 14 and 21. They did the same thing to my people. So then you said that they put millions of my actions. Yes, you said. Should a murderer go to jail for murdering? Absolutely. Should a thief go to jail when he steals? Absolutely. Should a robber pay back the money he robbed? Absolutely. So why shouldn't the white man pay for what he did? That's right.
One day you'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog.
I'm in a hell of a hole, was never expected to grow. This obstacle sat in the road, that a result of me selling my soul. The story I'm telling is cold, but yet it's what everyone knows. The white man's the devil is known. America was never a home, only a place of captivity, safe facility, hating disfigure me. They claim that I'm lazy, be killing me. Maybe this slavery draining my energy. 400 years and counting. The trail of my tears is countless. The fact that I'm here is astounding, but I can't wait till this shit is surrounded. Ready to tangle my king and the angel, be ready to rap. Crack in the sky, nuclear missiles will make it official. I'm capturing every crack and surviving. Put them all in chains where they need to be. Slavery for me. And let the whole world see that with them in the cages, safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash. Get resolved for the beast. 144, get the ruler show, we could all be at peace. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog.
Look, ain't no remorse in my blood slump. It won't be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I buy gon' be Gen 5. I get it customized. And sending shots off like farewell. Praying payback come back around like a carousel. Still remember your Honda's words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in his body, you fit the Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choke, apply pressure to the game like I did Vondale. Payback's a bitch in a dress, she a bombshell. Revenge is served cold, I just hope they making oxtail. Glock fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in a world of mad shooters. There was design fire for our babies to pass through in the day of our king's reign. I'll be overzealous. They bought my jealous, I bought brand new parabellums.
One day you'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog.
Yeah, those are messed up, no. Bad news.
All right. Shalom, Israel. I'm Officer Hakuniyah, and we are the ISUPK, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started off on 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. And under Commander General Yohana, we are taught that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the true biblical Israelites that the Bible speaks of. And today we're going to be talking about brotherhood. And for anyone who ever watched me teach before, most of my classes is usually about brotherhood, because what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to master brotherhood and master to where as though if I'm trying to pull some brothers into school to really show them how severe it is for brotherhood, for us to have brotherhood, you know what I mean? Because the world teaches us the opposite. The world wants us divided and separated and everything like that. So for me, I often focus on, brotherhood and us coming together as one, and when I say brotherhood, I mean, that's the brothers, the sisters, everything, you know what I mean? As long as you are, part of the 12 tribes, Blacks, Spanish, Native Indians, you understand? But we're moving on. Go ahead and pull that scripture from you. What is it? 1 John
chapter 4, verse 18.
Chapter 4. We're gonna start at verse 18.
It's the book of 1 John, chapter 4, verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love.
All right. All right, so it says there is no fear in love. Reason why I'm starting right here in this scripture right here is because, what we do, you have to have no fear in what we do. You understand? Especially when we out on camp, you gotta, we have to have a heart of a lion. You know what I mean? We got to always be focused. You can't go out there worrying about what other people think, about this truth. A lot of people going to disagree with us, but that's just the way it is. We can't control what everyone thinks, because mainly we really just trying to reach out people anyway, but everyone, we ain't going to be able to get everyone at the time. But the goal is to plant those seeds and have no fear while planting those seeds. You understand? And once we plant those seeds, we may be the ones to plant the seed, and someone else, in the UPK, like someone from Atlanta or North Carolina, they may encounter a brother who done watched the class or something over here, and one of those brothers may be the ones to water the seed. You know what I mean? So we have to have no fear while we're doing it, and when we do it, what it's gonna do, what it say? But perfect love casts out fear. You know what I mean? So whenever we cast out that fear, it creates a perfect love. You know what I mean? Because I would like to say that everyone, when you have an undying love for your children, you know what I mean, and you'll die for your children. If a dog try to attack your child, you're not even gonna think about it. You're just gonna react. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you cast out fear. You just don't even think about it. You just, you do what you need to do for those you love. And who do we love? You know what I mean? Here in the UPK, we love the 12 tribes, you know what I mean? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, Also, what does it say? It says, because fear hath torment. There's a saying, how does that saying go? A coward dies 1,000 deaths and a soldier dies but one, And for those who don't know what that means, is that we can die out here when we go on camp if things go wrong. Salakia, we can be unalived. I'm Salakia for that. We can be unalived. Possibly, if things go wrong, if one thing go wrong, it can go terrible. It could be crazy, and put it like that. It could be crazy, but we're not going to allow that fear of thinking that something is going to happen to push us away from pushing this truth, right? But then you have some brothers who get, I'm gonna use that word that the scripture used, tormented, and they become afraid and they don't want to go out there. And they don't have to be, they don't have to be afraid of something happening to them per se either. You know what I mean? They can be afraid of what, a fear of speaking in front of people, you know what I mean? Anything that's pertaining to fear. But, because of fear has tormented them, it says, he that feareth is not made perfect in love. So having fear, you like I said, if you have a child and the dog jumps out at your child and you just allow the dog to just attack your child, can you truly say you love your child? I mean, I would disagree with that. You know what I mean? Because if you love your child, you're gonna lay down your life for your child. You know what I mean? That's the same with this brotherhood. You know, you're gonna lay your life down for this brotherhood. You're gonna lay your life down for this truth. You understand? Read the next scripture.
Verse 20. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loves
you got to go to 19. You skip 19.
Verse 19. We love him because he first loved us.
Right. You know what I mean? So who is that talking about? Talking about the Most High. You know, say we love him. You know what I mean? We love the Most High because he loved us first. You know, how do we know he loved us? How do we know he loves us? You know what I mean? Is because what did he do? He gave us Yahweh Shai, who the world knows as Jesus, as a savior. You know what I mean? He gave us, you know, what is it? He gave us the blessings. You know, he separated us and made us holier than any other people. You know, we're his special people. That's how we know he loved us. You know, he separated us from all the other nations on the earth, meaning the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You know, he loved us more than any other nation on earth, right? Now continue.
Verse 20. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he hath seen, how can he love God, whom he hath not seen?
Right. So it says, if a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. You know, real quick, just give me an example real quick of like a man saying that he loved God, but how he hate his brother, but say he loved God, right? Give me an example real quick. It don't gotta be overly complicated, you know what I mean? Something simple.
Your brother might he might need some gas money to get to work, and you got it, but you tell him that you don't got it for whatever reason, and he got to figure something else out and maybe end up losing his job.
Right. I mean, that's a good one too. You know what I mean? Because if you got a brother who need what, $5-10 just to help him out so he can get to work, and you got a pocket full of money, you know, all your bills paid, you know, card notes, all of that, your kids taken care of, but you got a pocket full of money and you know your brother need help, but you refuse to help him out, then he lose his job, then he fall on bad time, you know what I mean? But this brother gonna go to church on Sunday, you know what I mean? Stand in front of the congregation and act like he holier than thou, and act like he has a love for his brother, but the whole time he despises his brother. He don't love his brother at all, because when he was given the opportunity to look out for his brother and help him out, and what I would say for this situation, in the easiest way possible, you know what I mean? Because the Most High clearly did what for him. He made sure that brother was blessed enough to where as though all his bills were paid, right? His children were taken care of. He had food and everything that he needed. But the one brother that did need the help, what did he do? He turned his back on him. But yet he says he loves God, you know. He can't love God if he say that, you know, he hated, you know, if he said that he hated his brother, and that's how you know he hates his brother, you know what I mean, by not lending a little $10, knowing that he has it, you know what I mean. He doesn't care about his brother's downfall. You understand? You know, it says he is a liar. Yeah, so we know that he's lying. You know, he in that situation, you know, that brother's definitely lying. He had a pocket full of money. He could have gave it to him. You know what I mean? Now it says, for he that loveth not his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has seen? So that brother right there, and that's in that example that you gave me, he's a clear contradiction of what, you know, what he believes he's doing. You know, he says he loves God, but through his actions, because what do we say in the UPK? Love is an action word. You know what I mean? And in that situation, he didn't show through his actions that he loved his brother. You know, $5-10, you know what I mean? It's not gonna hurt you. I can understand if you didn't have it, you know what I mean, to spare. You can have money in your pocket, You know what I mean? But that money is going somewhere. But this brother, based on the example that we gave, this brother, he had a pocket full of money and he just flat out just didn't want to do it. You know, go to church, you know what I mean, and act like he loves his brother, and he can't. He can't love his brother, right? Read the next verse.
Verse 21. And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also.
Right. You know, it says, and this commandment, so it's a commandment for one. We're gonna underline that. So it's a commandment that, you know, we love our brothers the same way we love God, right? You know, and this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. And that's not even really a hard commandment. You know, do brothers go through things? You know, yeah, I know me and my brother went through a lot of things. You know, we fought, we did all kind of things, you know what I mean? And we grew up to love each other more, you know what I mean, because of those trials and tribulations, you know what I mean? You know, trials and tribulations, you know, should be, you know, we should use it as a tool to build the brotherhood, you understand? Because when you go through these things and you and your brother find ways of patching it up and making amends with each other, what does that do? It make you that much stronger. You know what I mean? You start looking at each other differently. You know what I mean? You know, when that brother walk off, you won't even see him go by itself, you know, because you have that much love for him that you can't see him going anywhere. And the possibility of something happening to him, you would rather that happen to y'all together and y'all face that y'all face that adversity, you know, head on together, than for him to just face it by himself. And in the end, something goes wrong, or he possibly be unalived or hospitalized, you know what I mean? And that's what that brotherhood would do, you know, because a lot of people think just because you arguing and you going through all of these different things with your brother, you might not talk to him for a little while, you know, but that don't mean that you hate him. That just mean that you just need a little time before you pull him to the side and just let him know, like, hey, I need to talk to you, you know, because we know how we do it in the UPK. We talk to that brother and that brother alone. And then once we handle that, you know, we leave whatever that problem is, we leave it there and we move forward. You know what I mean? Because we have that kind of love for one another, you know. Do we always agree with each other? Nah, you know, we don't always agree with each other, but the brotherhood gonna definitely make sure that, you know, there's no malice or no hate, you know, no any kind of hate, you know, no false hate, no real hate, whatever you want to call it. That's what the brotherhood is gonna do. We're not even gonna indulge in that type of rhetoric. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna get you this next scripture. Have you got anything on that?
I was just gonna add to the example that I gave. The brother, he didn't even have to really give no cash. He might have just took him to work, and then, you know what I'm saying, arrange a route. It didn't even have to be like fine. He didn't have to give no money. He could have used me, you know, off the strength as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's several things he could have done, you know, and all of that falls into just brotherhood. Because I know a lot of brothers done looked out for me, you know. Shoot. You know, that's just what we do. We all look out for each other. Give me Matthew 25:40. That's just part of the game. Let me take that back. I ain't gonna say game. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying that it's a game, but that's just part of the brotherhood. You know what I mean? How we all just look out for each other whenever possible. You know, and if a brother don't have it, that don't mean that he don't care about you. We all understand. You know, when I say it was 25 and 24, I mean, what I say?
25 and 40. 25
and 40, right? I'm gonna get with you real quick. All right. Yeah, you can go ahead.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 40. And the king shall enter and say unto them, verily I say unto you, and as much as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Right.
And it says, verily I say unto you, and as much as ye has done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, right? So meaning that it doesn't matter if it's Commander General Yohana or a trooper, you know what I mean? You have to be brotherly. You have to, treat them the way that you're supposed to treat them. You know what I mean? You have to, you like undoubtedly you can't do nothing crazy that's gonna make you break that commandment. You know what I mean? You can't say you love Jesus, who we know as Yahushua, the Most High, Commander General Yohana, or any other brother. You know what I mean? If you looking down upon, any trooper, I ain't gonna use a trooper name, but any trooper, because it's rank and order. We can talk about rank, but we can't forget about the order. You know what I mean? We gotta do things with decency and order. So you know what I mean? We're just as if you walk in a room, we'll salute from we salute from the highest ranking man all the way down to the lowest ranking man. We wouldn't just because you're a trooper, we wouldn't just turn our back on you and just be like, oh, he just a trooper. We ain't gotta worry about him. You gonna get taken to counsel for that. You know what I'm saying? But that's really self-explanatory. And the Most High said, if you have done it to that brother, because this is Jesus speaking, who we know as Yahushua, he said, if you've done that to that brother, to the least of the brothers, you done it to him. So, Yahushua is letting you know that he will be offended if you offend the least of his brethren. You know what I mean? Shoot, let me see real quick. Let me see what this is real quick. Hold on. Read that one more time for me.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 40. And the king shall answer and say unto them, verily I say unto you, and as much as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me.
Right. Okay. So so this is what I want you to do. So we're gonna all right, so go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 6 and verse 13. 6 and 13. We're gonna start right there. Because brotherhood, I know my energy a little low right now. I'm just a little tired, but brotherhood, man, is so important. It's actually key. It's actually key because if not for the brotherhood, Yahushua wouldn't be doing the things that he does for us. You know what I mean? You have it?
All
right, you can go ahead and read it.
It's the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 6, verse 13. Separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends.
Right. All right. So it says, separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. Now, when it says separate yourself from thy enemies, that can be, you can swing that a few different ways, right? You know what I mean? But who are our real enemies? Who is the enemies of the Israelites? You know what I mean? All these other nations, you know what I mean? Because, you can see it every day, especially, with white America, you know what I mean? We definitely can see it with them because they still afflicting us to this day, and what do? They look us, they look us in our eye, act like they're our friend all day. I remember the first time Trump was elected, a lot of my family members had a lot of white friends, right? A lot of white friends. And soon as Trump, he wasn't even elected, to be honest. He was still trying to run for president. And he caused so much confusion and turbulence amongst the people that the white friends started taking up, the mentality of Donald Trump, so they were hiding themselves amongst, my family, which my family is, most of them tribe of Judah, but these white people were hiding amongst them. They was dressing like us, talking like us, acting like us, this, that, and the third, but the whole time, it was, what was it? Was it the truth? No, it wasn't the truth. They was really just hiding who they really are. You know what I mean? Because if Donald Trump could just come around and just start talking and get you to change how you view the people you called your friends, were they ever your friends? Nah, they were never your friends. That's why we have to separate ourselves, because if you got 100 snakes right? And 98 of the snakes are poisonous, and 2 of the snakes are garden snakes or something like that. You know what I mean? You know, I'm just saying garden snakes. But let's say you got 100 snakes, and 99 of the snakes, you know, are non-poisonous. Let's just say it like that. You know, would you trust 99 of them? You not 99 of those snakes? You know, just to make sure that those 2 over there are, you know, are still good. Nah, I'm not messing with them, because I can't tell, you know, the good snakes from the messed up ones. You know what I mean? Because it's only a matter of time before they actually show you who they really are. You know, in the end. You know what I mean? When it's all said and done, they always do that. At least in my experiences, you know, everything I see. Read the next verse.
Verse 14. A faithful friend is a strong defense.
Right. Go ahead. You can continue reading.
And he that hath found such an one hath found a treasure.
Right. A faithful friend. Check that out for me. Yeah, a faithful friend is a strong defense. You know that, and that's why we need this brotherhood. You know what I mean? All right. Yeah, that's why we lean toward this brotherhood. You know what I mean? You know, for a strong defense. You know, because like I'm gonna use camp as an example, right? Because you know, a lot of people, you know, because I watch a lot of videos and stuff like that too, and a lot of people. You know, there's, you know, when different brothers, not just here in South Carolina, you know what I mean, they'll come up there and they'll pull all these different scriptures and stuff like that. And they, you know, they feel as though that they done got the best of one of us or something like that. You know what I mean? As if, you know, one of us, just because they pulled that scripture, because one brother, you know, off the top of his head is unable to just, you know, to pull a scripture to, or unable to just break that scripture down. You know what I mean? We got men above us who gonna do what? They got a strong defense. They gonna step forward, you know what I mean, and they gonna take over from there, just to show them how strong we are. You know what I'm saying? And he that have found such and one have found a treasure. You know, so when you find a strong friend, you hold on to him. You know what I mean? He's like, you know, he precious than diamonds. He or she is. I say he, but I'm speaking about us as a whole. You know, I don't want to leave the women out, but I'm speaking about us as a whole, because even the ribs in the school, you know, without some of these ribs, you know, it would be hard on some of these brothers. You know, I can't wait to find me a rib that's strong like some of these sisters. You know what I mean? But they have a strong defense with them because they rib is with them like that. You know what I'm saying? And go to the next one.
Verse 15. Nothing doth countervail a faithful friend, and his excellency is invaluable.
All right, hold on. Countervail. Get the definition for that right there.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. But like I was saying, you know, a strong friend, you know, having a strong friend, you know what I mean, is the world. You know, can you imagine if Yahweh Shah wasn't strong? You know what I mean? And the scriptures talk about he coming back for us, and then he come back and he weak. That's crazy, ain't it? You know what I mean? But he's a friend of ours, so you know we know our defense is right. You understand? You got it. What it say?
To compensate for, or to equal or match.
Okay, right. Nothing though equals a faithful friend. Nothing equals a faithful friend. You can't even. Nothing can match a faithful friend. You know, all of those pertain to this. You know what I mean? Nothing equals or matches a faithful friend. You know what I mean? Because you know what you're getting when you're dealing with a faithful friend. You know what I mean? You know what he's dependable. Back to the other situation, you know, you need a ride to work, you know, he got you. You know, you need a couple of dollars, you know, he got you. You need a place to lay your head, you know, he got you. Nothing can replace that. Nothing can match that. You know what I mean? And it means the world, you know what I mean? And his excellency is invaluable. You can't trade that for money. That's what that's saying. That right there is saying that, you know, a faithful friend is priceless. You know what I mean? It's priceless. Money can't buy a faithful friend. You know what I mean? It can't buy a faithful friend. And hold on. Yeah. Money can't buy a faithful friend, you know. But you got anything on that? All right, that's ain't no problem. All right, so we're gonna go down to give me John 13, 34. John 13, 34. We just start right there. I'm gonna get with you real quick, look at it real quick. You ever had a friend like that? A faithful friend? Never had one?
Not really, you know.
No? Wow. But things gonna change now, right? Let me ask you that question again. I'm gonna let you fix it. I'm gonna let you fix that. Look at me. I'm gonna let you fix that.
I do now.
All right.
Like it.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Definitely got a entirely different support system now.
I mean, and why is that? You know what I mean?
Just because, like, brothers in this school, they held to a higher standard, the most highest standard. So, you know what I'm saying? And then it's even more levels of it's more higher ranking officers and brothers than them to even hold them accountable, and then someone to hold the other ones accountable. So it's really foolproof, fail safe system that we got.
But it's because of what?
Because of brotherhood.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's all because of the brotherhood. You know, if you never seen real brotherhood before, and then you come into the UPK and you actually see real brotherhood, you know, it begin to change you mentally first. Because you got to change yourself inside first, so it'll begin to show outside. You know what I mean? Because at first, you know, you're gonna be a little standoffish. You know what I mean? You ain't really gonna trust brothers that you don't know. You know, and that's natural. You know, and ain't nothing wrong with it. You know, because you supposed to, you know, try your brothers and stuff. Matter of fact, I got a scripture for that. Hold on. Hold that scripture right there. Let me find this one, because you got to try your brothers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just to make sure. But let me see if this is. Nope, not that one. 27. I hope I can find it. Let's see. Not that. I'm gonna go to. Yeah. 6. Y'all give me just 1 second. I just want to find that scripture if I can. All right, yeah. So go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 6 and go to verse 7.
It's the book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, verse 7. If thou wouldst get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. You see what I'm saying? So what we talking about is actually scripture. So if you coming in off the streets, you know what I mean? You know, like it wouldn't be wise to just accept it just because, you know, the way it looked, you know what I mean? You know, come around on a regular, you know what I mean? See if it's genuine, which we know is genuine, you know what I mean? We know it's real, but you know what I mean? Test us, you know what I mean? See, you know what I mean? See if what we're saying we're actually doing, you know what I mean? Like, you know, read it again. The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. Yeah, you like, don't just give us the credit, you know what I mean, because you heard of us, you know what I mean? Don't do that, you know what I mean? Prove us first, you know what I mean? Show, you know, come and see, you know what I mean, what we're really worth. If what we speak about, like when we preach brotherhood, you know, because, you know, I'm not the only one that talk about brotherhood. You know, we speak brotherhood on a regular basis, you know what I mean? So when you constantly hearing people speaking about brotherhood, and then you come in here, put it to the test, you know what I mean? Let's see what real, so like it, you know, y'all come in and try to see what real brotherhood is, you know what I mean? Because the more you come around, the more you'll begin to see that
this is what we do. You know what I mean? It's real brotherhood. You know what I mean? Real. And again, to the sisters, you know what I mean? That includes y'all as well, because y'all part of the brotherhood as well. You know what I mean? And when y'all and when they come in here, they gonna put y'all to the test as well, because they may have some ribs, and their rib is they're gonna be filling y'all out. But you know, we already know how that's gonna go. You know what I mean? Our sisters welcome all the women in here. You know what I mean? Treat them kind, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Go read a little more.
Verse 8. For some man is a friend for his own occasion, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
Right. So that go back to all of the stuff we've been talking about already. You know what I mean? For some man is a friend on his own occasion. Some people just deal with you, you know, based on what you can provide for them. You know what I mean? When, like, if you come in to the UPK for the first time, or you kind of new to the school, you know, we don't ask anything of you but to come in, listen, take notes, you know what I mean, and be a part of this brotherhood and just fill us out, you know, just fill us out. Because we don't do this for occasion. This is us all day, you know, all day, every day with each other. You know what I mean? When pertaining to other nations, you know, we brotherly with them, you know, but we treat them accordingly. But as far as like us, you know what I mean? Shoot, we put a lot of trust into one another, you know what I mean? A whole lot of trust, right? And then it says, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble. So like, if any brother, you know, I ain't gonna use no examples for anyone, you know, but I'll use me as an example. You know, I remember doing Hebrew Academy. You know, I was on my way, you know, trying to make it to the field, and my car broke down. So I called Officer Kaz and Officer Nayar. You know, shoot, you know, I don't want to say too much about that, but you know, when I called them, you know, they dropped what they did, whatever they had going on, they put that to the side. They came and got me. You know what I mean? Made sure I was good. You know, I left my car. Boom. You know what I mean? And shoot, we went about our business. When I was at 2 Passovers ago, I think that was the Atlanta one. I had a flat tire, Officer Bond. You know, I called him early in the morning, you know, because I was up, you know what I mean, just moving around. And I called him. I'm like, you know, hey, I don't want, you know, I got a flat, you know what I mean? Shoot. It took him a little while, you know what I mean, because I kind of called him at a, you know what I mean, I ain't gonna say the wrong time, but he was busy, you know what I mean? But you know, he had to get some things in order, but you know, shoot, what he did, he came. Not only did he come, you know, because I was dressed, you know, with a little silky shirt on and looking crazy, you know what I mean? Not crazy, but you know what I mean? He came, you know, the brothers actually changed the tire for me, you know what I mean? All of that, you know. And you know how much he charged me for that?
No.
Huh?
No.
No, he charged me something. You know what I mean? The only thing he charged me was, you know what I mean, shoot, you know, to do what?
No gas.
No, I ain't talking about no gas money. Nah, you know what I mean? To stay true to this brotherhood. You know what I mean? That, you know, you got to pay it forward. You know, because when you're in the brotherhood and you got brothers doing stuff like that, you know what I mean, and you used to dealing with brothers out in the world who do things for you. You know what I mean? Because they looking for you to do things for them. You know, because you know, like a favor for a favor type of thing. That's how the world works. And if you don't do a favor for them after they did a favor for you, they'll start feeling some kind of way in their heart. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? You know, so that's real. You know, he ain't say that. You know what I mean? He didn't say that. As far as like, you know, that brotherhood thing, I said he didn't say that, but that's how I took it. You know, he ain't charged me for nothing. He came, looked out, changed the tire, all that. Officer Lakamawan was there as well. I don't want to make light of that because it wasn't all just Officer Natazagabar. If I'm not mistaken, I think, not Officer Natazagabar. It wasn't just Officer Bond. Officer Lakamawan was there. If I'm not mistaken, Officer Nayar was there as well. You know what I mean? And La, if I forgot any brother, but you know what I mean? Did I need all them brothers to be there? Not necessarily, you know what I mean? But like I said before, you know, you don't never let one brother just go off by itself, you know what I mean? So what happened, you know what I mean? 2 brothers probably volunteered to go with him, you know what I mean? So, you know, we can keep this brotherhood strong, because the brotherhood is only as strong as its weakest link. You know what I mean? And do we have any weak links? No, it hasn't been proven that we have any weak links as of yet. You know what I mean? So we keep this brotherhood strong and keep building, you know what I mean, and keep passing it forward, and not being afraid to take, because some people get upset, you know what I mean, not us, you know what I mean, but some people get upset when you correct them about doing something that they shouldn't have done, you know what I mean, so it's like, if you're afraid of reproach, you know what I mean. Matter of fact, read the next line, read the next scripture.
Verse
9.
Verse 9. And there is a friend who, being turned to enmity and strife, will discover thy reproach.
Right. You know what I mean? So when you're dealing with a friend, how can a friend turn to enmity? You know what I mean? Which we know what enmity is. Go ahead and pull it up. But how can a friend turn to enmity? I'm gonna wait for you to get the definition, but I know what it is. But enmity is strong. That's something strong right there. You know what I mean? And we don't hold those type of feelings here in the UPK.
The definition of enmity: positive, active, and typically mutual hatred or ill will.
You see what I'm saying? We don't hold those type of feelings here in the UPK. You know what I mean? I ain't even gonna say hold. We just don't have those feelings. We may disagree with a brother, you know what I mean, for lack of understanding or something like that. But to read the definition again, to have these feelings,
active and typically mutual hatred or ill will.
You know what I mean? To have those feelings, no brother can say that they part of a real brotherhood in the UPK or any other brother or any other brotherhood for that matter. If you have enmity for your brother, you know what I mean? Enmity or strife, you know what I mean? But if they have a problem with reproach, right? With correction, you what do you do with that? If you have men who are above you and they see that you're doing something wrong, and when they approach you on that and they try to give you some guidance on that, and that hate, that enmity that you feel into it because you harboring feelings, because we don't harbor feelings. That's one of the biggest problems that we have in Black, Hispanics, and Native Indian community, especially like Blacks. And because I don't know too much about Native Indians, but I definitely know as far as like Blacks and Hispanics, we a lot of pride. We have a lot of prideful people, and we hold a whole lot in. You know what I mean? And when you come into the UPK, and you find out what true brotherhood is. You know what I mean? You begin to let those things go. Over time. That's why up in the what scripture was that? What is that? That was verse 7. That's why it says, if thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. That's why it's always good to do that. You know what I mean? So you can learn and appreciate, you know what I mean, what real brotherhood is. You know what I mean? If you just follow that right there, no matter whether it's the ISUPK or not, if you follow that right there, you just come in here and you study us and you pay attention to how we moving as a brotherhood and things like that, there's no way that you would look at us and just be like, yo, I don't want to be a part of that. You know what I mean? You would want to be a part of it. Any questions, anything? I forgot to ask it.
I got a comment from Sister Flo.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
She said, my eyes have been open to the truth, and you have been something that I thought I would never find, a true family and a true connection.
You see what I'm saying? Give that sister a hand, you know what I mean? Because, and it take a lot just to say that too, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people, they may feel it, you know what I mean? But they don't say it, you know what I mean? And it's always a good thing to actually say it, you know what I mean? What we say in the world, you know what I mean? Giving people their flowers, not that we're looking for it, but when somebody, and when I say somebody, I'm talking about this brotherhood, you know what I mean? When you part of a brotherhood and these people, the men and the women, alike, look out for you, and you one phone call, you could just call these people and and you'll have no doubt that you're going to get some type of results for whatever situation you have. You know what I mean? This sister understands, you know what I mean? Because the brotherhood is strong. It's something that we think if all of the Israel, you know, was to just come into the truth and just took their time, all of the problems that we have, there would be no problems. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have any issues. You know what I mean? Because we would have already worked them all out. You know what I mean? Shoot, we'll take, you know, sometimes you gotta take things slow with a brother. You know what I mean? If you're dealing with someone who's angry all the time, you know, like how you gonna let me ask you, how would you handle a brother that's always angry? Let me ask you that. How would you deal with an angry brother? Not in the truth, because you ain't gonna deal with that here. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. They're not in the truth, but I'll probably just try to stay away from them.
Let's say a relative. I'm talking about. Let's go with that, like a relative.
I know a soft answer turns away wrath, so I'll try to just, I guess, be as composed as possible. Only say like what needs to be said. Ain't trying to trigger them. I check on them, you know, just try to see if I could, you know, talk to them, get a breakthrough or whatever. But
right. I mean, he's saying some good things right there. You know what I mean? But the best thing to do when you're dealing with a person who's always angry, the first thing I would do, you know what I mean? I'll give that person some space. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to give a person some time to calm down. You know what I mean? And then it's circumstantial. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't have to do anything. Sometimes people angry for whatever they're angry about, and they just need time to vent. So they just angry and they just saying all this stuff, you know what I mean? But they ain't actually talking to you. You know what I mean? You know, they talking to you, but they ain't talking to you. You understand what I'm saying? You know, so like that, like it's ways of handling people without always taking things wrong. You can't call yourself a leader if you always jump into anger all the time. You know what I mean? Shoot, leaders know how to listen. You know what I mean? Leaders know how to follow. So, you know, that's why they're a leader, because they was once a follower. And they, you know, so now if they was a follower, that means what? When they become a leader, they're going to know how to teach people how to follow. What you got? All right. All right. So let me see what scripture we was on.
We was on Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and 7.
All right, no.
Before we went to that.
No. We still here. I'm trying to see where I was at because I had one up as the reproach and again the friends.
I believe the last one was verse 9 that we read.
Verse 9, the friend. Yep, that was verse 9. All right, let's see. Go to verse 10. Let's just go to verse 10.
Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 10. Again, some friend is a companion at the table and will not continue in the day of thy affliction.
Right. We covered this already, you know what I mean? So that's fall back under the category of having friends, you know what I mean, who befriend you for beneficial reasons, you know, and then, you know, soon as you have problems, you know what I mean, and you're afflicted by something, you know, they know where to be found, you know. They don't want to be a part of a true brotherhood. That's how you can tell who is actually really with you in the brotherhood. You know what I mean? When you're going through some things, you know what I mean? And you struggling, having hard times. It don't have to be financial, you know what I mean? Just a brother to talk to. You know, I've been there, you know, driving trucks, being over the road and things like that. Sometimes you need a brother to talk to. You know what I mean? Shoot, I done hit up a couple of brothers several times, you know what I mean? And I'll talk to them, you know. I was like, I don't want nothing out of one. I was just calling. You know what I mean? I'm out here. I ain't got nothing else going on. Just seeing how everybody's doing. You know what I mean? He'll talk to me if he got time, and that's, you know what I mean? And we move on with it, you know? But hold on, let me see if this one, let me see. But it matter. All right, so we're gonna move off for that one. All right, so what's that scripture you had? That was First John. No, John or First John. That was thinking of John, right?
John chapter 13. I think the verse though.
I think I do. Hey, hold on. I don't got. All right, hold on. That was John 13. Go 13:34.
13 and 34, you said?
Right. Let me get there with you before you go. All right. Matter of fact, you can read it. You can read it. John 13:34. Right.
It's the book of John, chapter 13, verse 34. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you.
Right.
That ye also love one another.
Right. A new commandment. Because, you know, we're going to underline commandment again. Because this is a commandment. And who is speaking? This is Yahweh Shai, who the world knows as Jesus. You know, and he said, a new commandment I give you, I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. You know, and how, you know, like just one example. Let me see what you got. Add one example. How has Jesus, you know, Yahweh Shai loved us? Give me an example. Anybody can give me an example. It doesn't even matter, right? If anyone, you know, gives an example, just you can read it. But what you got?
I mean, the most simplest one, he died for us.
Yeah,
That's
you know what I mean?
None of this will be possible. You know, we'll still be sacrificing animals to this day if not for that.
I mean, all kind of things be going on today. Yeah, that's definitely the most simplest. You know what I mean? You know, shoot, we was out. You know, our ancestors was out here messing up. You know, he could have. You know, the Most High didn't have to send Jesus. You know what I mean? But Jesus and the Most High loved us that much to where as though, you know what I mean, the Most High allowed Yahweh Shai to come on our behalf. You know what I mean? Because he's part of this brotherhood as well. You know what I mean? Yahweh Shai came to show us how to act and treat each other in the brotherhood. You know what I mean? That's really what the mission is. He came to show us that all of these things that the Most High is asking us to do is possible to do. You know what I mean? And this one right here is definitely key. It's definitely key by loving your brother as, you know, the same as Jesus loved us. You know what I mean? Being willing to lay down your life for your brothers and things. You got something?
I was just gonna add to what I said. So
Go ahead.
I was gonna say on top of that, not only did he died for us, he made the complicated things simple, or the things that we didn't understand simple to understand.
Right.
Gave us the roadmap.
Right. The blueprint.
The blueprint kind of. So
right. Yeah. I like that. You're right. That's 100%. I like the way you put that too. Yeah. He gave us the blueprint. You know what I mean? Well, the blueprint was already there because that's what the law, statutes, and commandments are. Those are the blueprints. If we follow the blueprint, you know what I mean? He just showed, it's kind of like you look at the blueprint, you know what I mean? This is what Yahweh Shai did, right? You know, because he said he's a carpenter. So the blueprint is laid out, but he showed us how to build it. You know what I mean? That's what he did. He showed us that this is how how it's supposed to be done. You know what I mean? And he showed, especially with the brotherhood, you know what I mean? Because I know you done read, and I know a lot of people done read, you know, about all, Jesus and his disciples and how he was, you know, how he went about teaching them and showing them different things and stuff like that, how lenient he was with them a lot of times and stuff, you know what I mean? You know, go ahead to the next verse.
Verse 35.
Yeah, it was verse 35.
Verse 35. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another.
Right. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love to one another. You know what I mean? Most High saying that you one of his disciples. All you got to do is love your brother, and you in. You know what I mean? As far as that, you know what I mean? You still got to follow the rest of the law, statutes, and commandments. But he's saying you one of his disciples. If you love, you know, have love for one another. You know what I mean? I don't even think I got to break that down, you know, because that's self-explanatory. You know, don't walk around holding ill will towards your brothers, right? You know, you ever had any brothers walking around having any ill will toward you?
Not in the school.
Nah. You know, I ain't talking about the school. Somebody in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, you know. Shoot, because out in the world, you know, shoot, man. I don't know how it was for your generation, but man, oh my God, where I'm from, you know, I'm from Jersey City, right?
Oh, okay.
You know, you could be walking by yourself. It could be like 20, 30 people outside. You know what I mean? All you want to do is go to the store. They all standing in front of the store. Soon as you walk up, everybody ice grilling you. You know what I mean? Everybody looking at, yo, who this dude over here? Everybody on, you know, like on go. You know, they waiting for you to do something. They waiting for you to do something wrong. You know what I mean? But soon as the white man come in the neighborhood, you know what I mean, they nice and lenient with him, you know, speaking properly for him. He walk up, they move out his way, you know what I mean? So that's how they are in the world. But out here, you know what I mean, not out here, but in here, you know, we different. We the opposite of that, you know what I mean? Shoot, the highest of the men above us, you know, will easily hold the door open for us, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's simple, easy. You know, but let me get this next one real quick for you. All right. Oh my God, what I'm doing. All right, there we go. All right. Let's see. Hold on. Give me Matthew 5 and 25. Let's see what that is. Matthew 5 and 20. Is it 25? I don't think it's 25. Let me go to it. Let me see. Matthew 5 and what is 25? Agree? Nope, that ain't it. Yeah, 22. 22. Yeah, go ahead.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 22. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Rakah, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire.
Right. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry, whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger. This right here happens all the time. You know what I mean? You know, and the only example, I ain't gonna say the only, but the example that I'm gonna give right now is one that's common. You remember when we was in the world? I don't know. Did you used to go to clubs and bars and stuff like that? All right. Well, I used to go to clubs and bars and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And one of the most common things at a club or a bar was you could be in there having a good time, chilling, not thinking about none of the guys in there, just having a good time, vibing. You know, talking to all the women, you know, women liking you just everything going well. But for some reason, instead you'll see a couple of guys over here, maybe over here. You know what I mean? And what are they doing? You start seeing them ice grilling you, you know what I mean, from a distance, you know what I mean? Looking at you crazy. You might see one walk up over there, you know what I mean? Try to talk to the girl that you're talking to, you know what I mean? Because they have bad intentions, you know what I mean? And they don't have a justified reason for that because they don't know you, you know what I mean? They building up anger and they just waiting for you to just say something wrong so they all can jump on you, you know what I mean? That's just how our people are right now. You know what I mean? And the only reason it's like that is because they don't have any guidance, you know what I mean? No real guidance, you know, no real guidance at all, because to me, I feel like if you in a bar or club and you there to have a good time, you know, and you got, especially if you got your friends with you, y'all should be vibing together. You know what I mean? All these women in here, y'all should be talking to the ladies, you know what I mean? Have a couple of drinks, you know? Now I know, Officer Natazaga Ball, you know, I done seen him do it a few times, you know what I mean? We'll go to a place, you know, fishing. Of course, we not just out there and stuff. We fishing, you know, and he'll buy brothers drinks. He might even buy them a bottle, you know what I mean? Just to let them know, like, yo, you know, this what the brotherhood is, you know what I mean? And you know, that he was planting a seed, you know. It might not have grown right there, but trust me, if you was in the club or something like that, and a random brother, let's just say a random brother from the UPK right? Matter of fact, let's just say Officer Natazaka Bar. You know what I mean? But you don't know him as Officer Natazaka Bar, right? But you over there with your homeboys, is a group of y'all, you know, and let's just say I don't know what you call them, women in the clubs, waitress, whatever. I mean, not waitress, bartender, whatever. I don't know, but they bring a bottle over there. You know what I mean? Got a thing of beers. You know, got a bottle there, and they tell you that, hey man, these beers in this bottle came from that brother over there. You know what I mean? You know, how you gonna look at that brother? You know what I mean? How you gonna look at him? It's gonna always be there, and then one day you just might see him. You know, you might be going through something at the time when you actually see him, but you're gonna recognize him from what he did. So that's gonna open the door for you to do what? You know what I mean? For you to talk to him. You know what I mean? And once you talk to him, that's gonna open the door for you. For him, he's gonna open the door for you to come into the brotherhood. You know what I mean? And begin to fill this out and see what's going on, to see like, was that gesture that he showed you in the club genuine? And of course, you're gonna see that as genuine. How do we know? Because the brotherhood is growing. You know what I mean? Brotherhood growing every day. But he's, I done seen him do that a few times. He's not the only one. You know what I mean? I done seen a couple of brothers done did that. But it's how you build relations with the people that's not in the truth. Because a lot of times people look at us as being militant because they see us at camp and we have to be militant. You know what I mean? We have to be militant. You know what I mean? We know why we have to be militant, but we remember our training. You know what I'm saying? But, make no mistake, all of that stuff is just to build relations and show the community, our community, Blacks, Hispanics, and Natives, Indians, that, like, there's no ill will here for you. There is a place if you want refuge away from all of the how should I say, all of the trials and tribulations outside in the world. If you want to start over, you know what I mean, and get your life together, like genuine, you know what I mean, because you have to be genuine about it. Because if you're not genuine and you just trying to use the brotherhood, trust me, you know what I mean, the Most High will weed you out. You know what I mean? He will weed you out. And I chose my words wisely. I ain't say a brother is gonna weed you out, because the brother's not gonna weed you out. The Most High is gonna weed you out. You know what I mean? So if you want refuge from the trials and tribulations, and you beefing with gang members and things like that, and you don't want to be a part of the gang no more, what should you do? You know what I mean? Come talk to one of the brothers over here. You know what I mean? Come get to know what a real brotherhood is. You know what I mean? Instead of that gang that you're still a part of but trying to get out of. You know what I mean? Come find out what a real brotherhood is. You understand? So let me see. Let's go to let me look at this real quick. Hold on. But you got anything?
Sir.
All right, right. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna look at. All right. Let's see if this is. Yeah. All right. All right. Right. All right. Go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 22, verse 25. Verse 25. I was just making sure if that's where I wanted to be at. Right. You can read it whenever you have it.
It's the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 22, verse 25. I will not be ashamed to defend a friend, neither will I hide myself from him.
Right. That's really self-explanatory too, but right, again, it says, I will not be ashamed to defend a friend. You got people out here in the world, right? Like it may not have happened to you, but I'm pretty certain, because it's somebody in every family or every group that you're in, except for here, because we ain't doing that. You know what I mean? To where as though you'll hear somebody talking crazy about somebody. You know what I mean? You got that he say, she say things going on and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And somebody throwing dirt on your name and all of that type of stuff. You know what I mean? if you a real friend, would you like, what are you gonna do?
You go talk to him. If you hearing like something he said, she said, you go talk to both the individuals. The one who told you that, you talk to them to see what they saying. Then you go to the person they said was saying that, and you get their side of the story too. And then you just use discernment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, all right, there you go. You use discernment, that's for sure. You know what I mean? Because you got to fill it out. Because you don't want to escalate it. That's for sure. You know what I mean? But if a situation like that is going on, you know what I mean? The best thing to do, you know what I mean, at that time, like I said, use discernment, fill it out, and then if it's looking like it's a situation where you can just be like, hey, let me talk to you over here real quick. You know what I mean? You pull them to the side. You don't never want to put somebody on the spot because it's gonna escalate it. You know what I mean? No, people hate to feel like they're embarrassed. You know what I mean? So you don't want to escalate it. But as a friend, you want to speak up for your friend. Just be like, hey, what you're saying about them isn't true. You know what I mean? I don't know where you got that from, but I think if you have a situation with this brother, give him some advice. I think instead of talking to these people, right? Why don't you just pull that brother to the side and see if y'all can hash this out and figure out like what's really going on? And if y'all can't do that amongst yourselves, then what? See if y'all can, have a mediator, you know what I mean? Give advice, you know what I mean? Try to de-escalate it. But as a friend, you know what I mean? I'm just using this as an example, but as a friend, you know what I mean? You got to stand up for yours, you know what I mean? And back to like, even like say when we out at camp, you know what I mean? All of us, we're all part of the same brotherhood. You know what I mean? Say Cap put you on Shamar, you know what I mean? And you hear one of the brothers over there and they blazing, they blazing, they on the mic, they blazing, they doing their thing, and you really want to hear what's going on, but you on Shamar, right? You gonna break Shamar just to go over there? Nah, because what's the reason why? Because you can be you can be that brother, you know what I mean, who even though your heart is in the right spot, you know what I mean, because you're just trying to hear the word and you feeling good about it. You got a job, you have a duty, because as a friend, we're dependent on you. You know what I mean? We dependent on you to make sure you look out for us. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry, Salakia. You know what I mean? All right, yeah. But also, it says, neither will I hide myself from him. You know what I mean? You ain't never gonna duck and dodge, you know what I mean? When it's time to stand up for your brother, you know what I mean? You ain't gonna be ashamed of that. You're gonna always stand up for him. You understand? And Salakia, do me a favor. Just pause it real quick. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. We back live. Yeah, Salakia for that, everybody. You know what I mean? Give me Ecclesiasticus 29 and 10. Let me get myself together right here. But I say Ecclesiasticus 29 and 10. Let me get there. Which is 29 and 10. All right. All right. All right, go ahead. You can read it.
It's the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 29, verse 10. Lose thy money for thy brother and thy friend, and let it not rust under a stone to be lost.
Right, right. You know what I mean? It says, lose thy money for thy brother and thy friend, and let it not rust under a stone to be lost. You know, a lot of people, back to that situation we had spoke about earlier, you know what I mean? This brother holding on to money, you know what I mean? Who's to say that the Most High, you know, ain't ready to bring that brother home? You know what I mean? Yeah, that money ain't doing him no good when he could have used that money to help a friend, to help a brother. You know what I mean? So, you know, having people usually put money, like up here. You know what I mean? They put money above the brotherhood, above their friends. You know what I mean? When it's, like money, what good is money? What you got?
I was about to say, money is a tool, and honestly,
I mean, definitely.
it's really a tool. And back in the Old Testament, they didn't really deal with money like that. They dealt with things like animals and different materials,
Bartering stuff. Yeah, oils, foods, fruits, animals, and things like that. Right, wheat. Yeah, land. You know, things of real value. Yeah, but all of that stuff. You know what I mean? But money as money itself. You know what I mean? However you want to look at currency, money itself. People turn their back on their mother for some money. You know what I mean? When it really come down to it, but the scriptures let us know. It says, lose thy money for thy brother and thy friend, because your brother is your friend, and let it not rust. You know what I mean? What it say, let it not rust, meaning don't let it just lie dormant, you know what I mean, and just collect dust and stuff like that when you don't actually have a use for it. You know what I mean? All these people in need, but you got $1 billion. I'm just using that as an example. You got $1 billion and all these people in need. Somebody who have $1 billion, can they truly love the people that they say they're around? If I had $1 billion, everybody in my family be millionaires. You know what I mean? Shoot, everybody would be good. I can't have $1 million and my family doing bad. Shoot, this school would be looking. We own this little whole thing over here. If I had all that money, so I wouldn't just let my money just sit around and just collect dust and just, as the scriptures say, and let it and let it rust. You know what I mean? I will put it to use to the brotherhood. You know what I mean? That's basically what it's about. Using your money and your assets and your resources, you know what I mean, to reach out to your brothers and sisters, you know what I mean, making sure that they have what they need, making sure that, because the resources, as far as what money can bring, can do what we can use that to push this truth further. You know what I mean? We can use it like I don't want to use that as an example. Let's just say we got a family, let's just say a family gets evicted. If a family get evicted, it would be nothing. You know what I mean? For us in the brotherhood, if we all had $1 million a piece, that person who got evicted, you know what I mean? Shoot, what we gonna do for them? We already know what we're gonna do. It is a rhetorical question. We already know what we're gonna do. That brother, sister, children, all of them, they're gonna be taken care of, because even if they don't come into the truth at that time, the goal is to what? Show them what real brotherhood is, and show them like, hey, over here in the ISUPK under Commander General Hunter, you know what I mean, we were trained to look out for ours, you know what I mean? And although, some of these brothers and sisters are not in the truth, they're still our brothers and sisters, you know what I mean? We still have to look out for them, and that's what we do. What you got? All right, right. So, we still have to look out for them, you know what I mean? And hold on, let me look at this real quick. I mean, All right, go to Proverbs and 27. Proverbs 27, verse 9.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 9. Ointment and perfume rejoice the heart. So doth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel.
Right. You know what I mean? It says ointment and perfume rejoice the heart. You know, and they compare. That's what the scriptures is comparing. So doth sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. You know what I mean? You know, like when you have, matter of fact, let me do this real quick. Hold on. Let me just do this right here. Hold on. Let me boom, boom, boom. All right. Yeah. So it says by sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. You know what I mean? You know, and what is hearty counsel? You know what I mean? You can pull up hearty, but hearty is just, you know, like, you know, strong, you know, that's the only word I can think of right now. But like strong counsel, you know what I mean? So when you have a friend, you know, sometimes y'all might have to get counseling, you know what I mean? But y'all gonna work that out together, you know what I'm saying? What you got?
It's a few of them.
What you say?
Enthusiastically or exuberantly cordial, expressed unstrainedly, exhibiting vigorous good health, abundant, rich, or flavorful enough to satisfy.
Yeah, now go back to the top, read it one time.
Enthusiastically or exuberantly cordial, expressed unstrainedly, exhibiting
right. Yeah. All of those at the top, you know, most of those meanings go for that, you know what I mean? But that's all the things you're gonna do, you know what I mean, when you have a friend and you taking a sound counsel, you know what I mean, pertaining to you and your friend, right? You know, I'm sorry, Slugger, and pertaining to you and your friend, you understand? So I'm just pulling out a lot of friendship scriptures and brotherhood scriptures, you know what I mean? Because, you know, it's important to know who your friends are. It's important to know what real brotherhood is, you know. All of those things are important. So do me a favor, go ahead and get Luke 6 and 31.
Come on.
You got anything right there on the screen?
Oh, live.
All right.
Just let me go ahead and read.
What is that? Luke and 31? Yeah, 6 and 31. Yeah, you can go ahead and read. I'm trying to get there.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 31. And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise.
All right, hold on. So like here, read it one more time. 6 and 31.
And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise.
Do to them likewise. You know, so like back to what we were saying, like if we get someone coming off the street, right? And they coming and they just trying to fill us out, you know what I mean? You know, as time go on, what are they gonna do? They're gonna begin to treat us the same way that we treat them, right? You know, and why do we treat them like that? Because that's how we want to be treated. You know what I mean? We want to be treated fairly. Like when we first come into the truth, I don't know what your experience was when you came into the truth, you know what I mean, into the UPK and everything. But, you know, when I came in, you know, I wasn't sure exactly, you know, like how brothers really were. You know what I mean? It started off with one person I came one day, I think it was Officer Bond. He was the first person I seen. I spoke to Cap, but Officer Bond was the first person that I actually seen. That's the first class I attended. You know what I mean? Then I think I attended another class, you know, and next thing you know, it's like 4 different brothers in there. You know, I'm just looking, you know, I speak to brothers, you know what I mean? But I don't really know these brothers like that. You know what I mean? You know, but they treated me good. You know, they ain't, you know, no ill will, you know, everybody was nice and respectful. So, you know, I reciprocated that. I gave them what they gave me. I came in here and I ain't act like I knew what was going on. You know, did I know scriptures? Yeah, I knew scriptures, you know what I mean? But sometimes it's not always about the scriptures, you know what I mean? Sometimes, you know what I mean, you have to see what's in front of you, you know, because you can be blinded by what scriptures you think you know, and then you just in there and what you doing, you know, you just trying to prove the brothers like, I know this and I know that. You ain't learning that, you know what I mean? So I just sat back and I just watched them brothers over here, you know what I mean? I'm watching how they moving in here, you know, and by watching them over time, you know, I began to open up a little more, you know what I mean, and began to not necessarily do what they was doing, but it definitely opened the door for me to you know, feel comfortable, you know, to, you know, really want to read and stuff, because they reading for them. I'm like, hey, I want to read, you know what I mean? Yeah, I got my Bible today. Let me read. Even though you got a Bible brother? Yeah, I got my Bible today. Yeah, you know, you want to read? Yeah, I want to read. You know what I mean? And that's really how my situation started. You know what I mean? I just took little baby steps and things like that, you know what I mean? Because those brothers treated me the way they wanted to be treated. And they remember when they came in, you know, how it was for them. I don't know how it was for them, but they remember how it was for them, you know. That's why, you know, whenever new brothers or sisters come in here, you know, for me, I know how I handle them, you know what I mean? The way I would want to be handled. I don't want nobody who's gonna be, you know, talking crazy. Not that anybody talk crazy in here, but you understand what I'm saying. You don't want nobody talking crazy to you, because it's gonna do what? It's gonna push you away. It's not gonna actually bring you into the brotherhood. It's gonna push you further away. You know, read 32.
Verse 32. For if ye love them which love you, what think ye? So like, what think have ye? For sinners also love those that love them.
Right. For if ye love them which love you, what think ye? What think have ye? For sinners also love those that have them. Hold on. Yeah, I ain't gonna get into that right now. That's a whole nother. That's going somewhere else for me. But I'm gonna let it, because I can't break that down fully. I ain't trying to go too far, and I can't break that down all the way like I would like to. So we're gonna move off of that. But if anyone listening and they want to get a breakdown on verse 32, you know, in the next class tomorrow, you just put it in the chat, and one of the officers, they'll be able to break that down better than I would be able to. All right, so we're gonna move on to let's see. Let me see. All right, I was just there. Oh, you go to Psalms real quick, right? I just gotta find it.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go to the book of Psalms. Yes, Psalms chapter 133, verse 1.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 133, verse 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity.
It says, all right, so you see what I'm saying? Like throughout the Bible, throughout the Bible. You know what I mean? It's tons of scriptures that, you know, that talks unity, you know, and talk about treating your brother, your neighbor, you know, good, and treating them as you would treat yourself. You know what I mean? And this one right here says, behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. You know, like once you come around this brotherhood, at least in the UPK, you know, you come around and you begin to feel that the love is genuine. You know what I'm saying? So when you if you're not around for a little while, and then when you come back, it kind of feels, you know, like, man, I missed this. You know what I mean? Like that, you know, because you've been gone for a while. Like I'm really speaking for myself, you know, because with being on the road driving a lot, you know, it's like, you know, you kind of like, even though I watch the classes and things, it's just not the same as like actually being in the presence. You know what I'm saying? And then when when I finally come around, you know, it activates something in me. You know what I mean? You know, it gives me that extra push. Like, you know what? Just watching that the brothers putting in this work, it make me want to put in this work. You know what I mean? It make me want to start doing more and extending my hand, you know, and taking on more responsibilities and things like that. You know what I mean? Because I see how these brothers are moving. You know what I'm saying? You see it. You know what I mean? And shoot, you know, you've been moving. You know, you've been doing your thing. You know, but it's a pleasant feeling. You know what I mean? It's a pleasant feeling. You know, just to be around it. You know what I mean? And to see that, you know, if you talking to a brother, and I ain't even gonna name anything, but you talk, you know, you hear brothers talking, and they have all of these different goals and stuff like that, and to see these brothers, you know what I mean, accomplish these goals, you know what I mean, that just being around the brotherhood motivates you, you know what I mean, because you seeing it and you feeling it, and it's like, yo, you don't want to be the only one, you know what I mean, that don't have a purpose, you know what I mean. So what happens, you know, you find your purpose within the brotherhood. I mean, it might not come overnight, you know what I mean, but just being around the brotherhood, coming together, enjoying that unity and everything, you know what I mean, eventually you're going to find your purpose in this brotherhood, you know what I mean, in a true brotherhood. You know, we ain't asking nobody to come in here and kill and unalive anybody or anything like that. You know, we just ask you to come in here and, you know, take notes, right? You know, be ready to, be ready when your name is called, you know, if possible, you know, and when that time is called, you know, and you become an officer, hopefully you're ready, you know, and it ain't gonna be like no easy task, you know, because I know for some it might be, but you know, for some it may not. It's different for everybody. You know, what you got?
I was gonna piggyback on what you said earlier, about the weakest link. I was gonna say, if you really love your brothers, and you don't want to be that weakest link, so you're gonna constantly, you know, elevate yourself and involve yourself, you know, to improve yourself, to push the brothers around you to continue to elevate themselves, and it should be a continuous cycle, you know.
Right now, that's true. And you basically saying, you said the same, you know, yeah, that's a good example. But you know, just like what you just said is, you know, it's motivating you. You know what I mean? It's motivating you. You know what I mean? It make you want to. It set a fire under you. Make you want to do something. You know what I mean? Because a lot of brothers who come here, you know, they read already. You know what I mean? They have what they think is an understanding. You know what I mean? But you know, when they come in here, you know, some brothers can't. You know, some brothers don't make it. You know what I mean? Because they can't let go of the world. You know what I mean? Then you got some brothers who do make it because they sit back and they take sound counseling, you know what I mean, from brothers from a brotherhood that they want to be a part of. You know what I mean? You know, it's like, you know, I wouldn't go inside your house and debate you on like how you run your house. You know what I mean? I'll just let you run your house. You know what I mean? And but some brothers just come in here and they just want to fight you in your house. You know what I mean? You know, verbally, you just say it like that verbally. You know what I mean? When you don't even got to fight, all you got to do is just take your time. You know what I mean? Follow the rules that we have. You know, you got a question, raise your hand. You know, some brothers don't like to do that. You know, if your rib come in here, you know, have your rib cover a head. You know, like they don't. Some people just don't be wanting to do that, and then they make it look like it's us. You know what I mean? But if we go to your house and you ask us to remove our shoes off our feet, you know what I mean, before you come in the house, if we don't do that, you know what I mean, you're gonna ask them, they're gonna ask you to leave, right? You know what I mean? Now we ain't gonna just up and just ask somebody to leave for that, because this being their first time or first few times coming in here, you know what I mean? We just want to see what their purpose is, you know what I mean? What's their goal? You know what I mean? Because you know we got to fill them out too, because that's a two-way thing. You know what I mean? They filling us out, we filling them out. You know what I mean? But us being trained by Commander General Yohana, you know what I mean, we have more patience than someone who's coming out of the world in here. We understand where they coming from, because a lot of us had some of that energy. I didn't have that energy, but I do know a lot of us in here that, you know, not particularly South Carolina, but a lot of brothers, you know, that had a certain type of energy, you know what I mean? And that energy that they had, you know, wasn't, you know, I can't even find the words to figure, you know, to actually say it, but that energy that initially that you have when you first come here and you don't have any recollection of like what we actually do and how we carry ourselves and things like that, you know what I mean? It'll throw you off if this is your first time here, you know what I mean? You know, well, I already know how you was exposed, so yeah, I can't even use you as an example for this. But you know, for me, my exposure to the truth, you know, came from my cousin in Jersey City. You know what I mean? And he just kept on telling me, "Hey, man, hey, check him out down there. Check him out." You know what I'm saying? I like, listen, man, I ain't even gonna lie to you. They ain't have a school when I came here. When I found out I was at somebody's house, I was like, man, you know what I mean? It kind of threw me off, you know, because I still had a worldly mind. You know what I mean? I ain't know brothers would sound like that, you know, because I got trust issues, or I had trust issues, you know what I mean? I don't just trust anybody. Where I'm from, you can't just trust anybody, you know what I mean? That can cost you. May cost you a little, may cost you a lot, but it's gonna cost you, you know what I mean? That was my mindset. But once I came in here, you know, during Hebrew Academy, I lied to you, man, I think I done said this in class before, you know what I mean? I gotta keep on saying it, you know what I mean? Because somebody listening, you know, might need to hear it, you know. But during Hebrew Academy, or you know, I was talking to Officer Natazaka Bar, you know what I mean? And he was like, I know what your demon is, you know what I mean? Yeah, I was like, what is it? He's like, man, you don't lean on the brotherhood enough, you know what I mean? I like, what, you know, in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm yeah, I just called you, you know what I mean? You know, but that's in my mind, you know, because we can't control the thoughts that pop in our mind, but we can control whether or not we let it out. You know what I mean? So, so when he said it, I listened to him, you know what I mean? And you know, once we were done with Hebrew Academy for that day, you know what I mean, I let all that marinate. I was digesting it, you know what I mean? He ain't say a lot, but what he said, it stuck with me, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you mean I don't lean on, I don't lean on the brotherhood enough, you know what I mean? So it's a reason why it stuck with me, you know, it's a reason. And to me, I feel like what he did was challenge me, you know, he challenged me. So am I up for the challenge? You know what I mean? Am I going to begin to lean on the brotherhood? You know what I mean? Yeah, of course I did, you know, sometimes you take baby steps. Sometimes you take large steps, you know what I mean? You know, but what he said, I took it as sound counseling. Remember that scripture we put about that counseling? I took it as sound counseling, you know what I mean? And it actually, you know, helped me in a lot of different ways, you know what I'm saying? So I would say to any brother, you know, shoot, if you ever having any issues, you know, with the brotherhood that you're a part of, and I'm talking about people that's out in the world. If you listen, if you're having issues with the brotherhood that you're a part of, come into the ISUPK under Commander General Hanna and see what real brotherhood is. You know what I mean? Just get a taste of us. You know what I mean? Give us a little time. You know what I mean? Because you can't just come in here one day and think you got it figured out. You know what I mean? Or, you know, because there's so many different, you might come in here one day and, you know, and you ain't no telling, you might see 3 people on the day you come, or you might see 20 people on the day you come. You know what I mean? But you got to give it time, so you can allow the brotherhood to help you shed yourself of the world. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't come in here thinking that, you know, you can carry yourself the way that you was carrying yourself with that other brotherhood you was with. You know what I mean? We're gonna give you time to get yourself together, but you got to understand, you know what I mean, if you really want to be part of a real brotherhood, you have to be willing, you know, to accept reproach, you know what I mean, shed yourself of, you know, of all of these things that you have going on in the world, because the things that you have going on in the world, like we don't smoke, you know what I mean? We don't smoke. None of us in the UPK smoke, you know what I mean? None of us in the UPK, you know, is about getting drunk, you know, because that's not something we want to do. We never want to be out here drunk, you know what I mean? If any brother is drunk, you know, the brotherhood gonna pull him to the side, take him to counsel or something like that, you know what I mean? Just to get the situation rectified. But come in here, shed yourself, you know what I mean? Take your time, be ready to take notes, you know what I mean? Don't come in here hardcore, you know what I mean? You know, just come, sit down and genuinely just listen, feel us out. You know what I mean? Come to some of these picnics that we do. You know what I mean? Come to some of these feast days, come to Sabbath service, you know what I mean? Come, you know, even though you're not, because, you know, once you can come to camp. They ain't gonna come to camp and be where we are. But if you want to come and learn some more, come to camp. If you have any questions, come up and talk to us. You know what I mean? Work your way in, and if you know, because if you have a true love of the Most High, like you feel like you do, you know what I mean? That spirit that the Most High gonna give you is gonna push you closer to the brotherhood, because the closer you get to the brotherhood, the closer you get to the Most High. Because that's in one of the scriptures that we read as well, right? You know what I mean? The closer you get to the brotherhood, the closer you get to the Most High. You know what I mean? So just take your time. I urge, you know, new brothers and sisters or anyone who's listening, you know, like if I can't break a scripture down, you know, for you, you know what I mean? You know, it's somebody in here that can do it. You know what I mean? Somebody can do it. It's some, you know, it's a teacher for everybody. You know, when you was in school, you used to, you know, have your favorite teacher because you like the way that teacher taught. You know what I mean? It's somebody out there like the way that I teach. You know what I mean? Somebody out there that like the way Officer Natazaka Bar teach. You know, it's all according, you know, it's all according to who you are and who's teaching at the time. You can't just come in here one day and think that you're gonna learn about this brotherhood and learn about this truth just off of the first brother. You know what I mean? You got to come in here, take your time, give every brother a chance. You know what I mean? Shoot, give them several chances. You know what I mean? You know, go to Passover. You know, I say that's a good thing to do. You want you know, any brother or sister listening that's not already in the truth, if you want to know what, you know, what this brotherhood is really about, I say go to Passover. Passover gonna show you a lot. You know what I mean? You know, you that's really all I can say. I say just go. You know what I mean? Salakia, because if you go to Passover, you'll see things that, you know, that you wouldn't think that you would see, you know, because I don't think they really know how, like, what's really going on. You know what I mean? You know, I don't think they know how well, you know, brothers and sisters carry themselves, respectful, how respectfully they carry themselves, and how, especially how brothers and sisters dress. You know what I'm saying? You know, like once people come into this brotherhood and they see how we dress, especially if you know, if it's a brother or sister who actually, you know, like fashion and stuff like that, you know, you come in here, you know what I mean? shoot, man, they be throwing it on. That's all I can say. They be throwing it on. You know, you was at this previous Passover, right? Yeah, it's like everyone, you know, shoot, you know, some of these garments be just blowing my mind. You know what I mean? Shoot, one day I'm gonna get me a glorious garment one of these days. You know what I mean? You know, if one of the other ones listening, you know what I mean? Yeah, but you got anything to say on that?
I just want to add. I want to start working on my garments as soon as I can.
Yeah, talk
for the next Passover, try to get fresh like some of these other brothers and sisters out here.
Yeah, talk to the Brotherhood. My first garment I got from one of the brothers in the truth. I didn't even have a garment. You know what I mean? He gave me a garment. At this Passover, shoot, I went there because I flew down, and I didn't have a garment with me at all. You know what I mean? And I needed a garment. Shoot, when I left Passover, shoot, I had a full garment. I had, you know, I had a headpiece. I had, you know, the top garment. I had a what do you call it? The belt. Yeah, war belt. I had a war belt. You know what I mean? I had everything I need. You know, yeah. Only thing I didn't get was some gauntlets, but I got gauntlets. I just forgot to bring it with me. But yeah, shoot, man. I was gifted, I was gifted a lot of things, you know what I mean? Shoot, you know, the Brotherhood gonna make sure that, you know, that everybody's good, you know, because it's not about materialistic things, you know what I mean? Because we spoke about that as well, right? In one of the scriptures. It's not always about money. You know what I mean? You know, sometimes you might see, I seen one brother, shoot, at one of them Passovers, shoot, he had bought like 10 brothers a garment. You know what I mean? Because brothers ain't had no garment. he brought 10 garments and gifted it to 10 different individuals. You know what I mean? He ain't gonna let his money rust. You know what I mean? He's spending it on the brothers. You know what I mean? You know, and that, hey, how often do you see that in the world? You know what I mean? 10 garments. You know how much these garments. You know what I mean? Yo, that's crazy. You know, it's glorious at the same time, you know what I mean? Because it kind of blows your mind, you know, and that's what that's why I say I think people should, you know, before you make a decision on not staying in class or not, or just saying like, you know what, I don't think the UPK is for me. Before you make that decision, I say just take your time and just choose to go to one Passover one day. You know what I mean? Just one Passover. You'll see it. It's always advertised. You know what I mean? But just go to one Passover. You know, I say go go to one cookout. You can see a lot at a cookout too. You know what I mean? Shoot, you know how generous brothers and sisters are, right? You know what I mean? Brothers and sisters be leaning on each other like crazy. You know what I mean? Shoot, I remember my first time, you know what I mean, actually doing something like that with the brothers. You know, I'm gonna just use here. I was talking to the brothers here in South Carolina. I was trying to get my rib, you know, into the school and everything, you know, and you know, they were talking about it, and they were like, you know what, you know, we're gonna have a little small get together cookout, you know. So we went to Anderson Beach, you know what I mean? Everybody cooked food, you know. I ain't gonna say what Nayar said. Matter of fact, yeah, Nayar said we all pulled our rods out. Pause. You know, pause, but you know, that's a little joke, you know, but yeah, you know, some, you know, we wanted to go fishing, but we ain't actually had no poles. But you know, the children was out there, all the kids played together. Stop it. You know, that's what the Brotherhood is. You know, we can joke with each other like that. I give them a hard time about that all the time. You know what I mean? Good night. You know, but you know, that to me, you know, I like the effort that they put into it. You know, my rib not in the school. You know what I mean? But I mean, she's not in the truth, but I like the effort that they put forward, you know what I'm saying? You know, into trying to help me get my rib into the truth. You know, the Brotherhood was working with me, you know what I mean? And just because she ain't in the truth right now, don't mean she's not going to be in the truth later on, you know what I mean? You know, your rib might not be there, but you there, you know what I mean? You can sanctify your wife by staying in its truth, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, one day, hopefully she will be, you know. She came to a class before, you know, Officer Shaw taught the class. You know, that was a good class too. I remember like it was yesterday. But yeah, the brotherhood is something else. It's definitely something else. It's definitely something not to take lightly. You know, because if you take the brotherhood lightly, so like it was. No, you too up. You too up. You know, no, you too up. You too up. You know, the brotherhood is definitely not something that you can that we take lightly. You know what I mean? We take this brotherhood serious, you know what I mean, because it's that effective. It saved a lot of people's lives. You know, it's a lot of brothers and sisters that, you know, that who lives would change because of this brotherhood. And that's why that's why most classes I teach is usually always about brotherhood, you know what I mean? Because I like to push brotherhood. It's always about the brotherhood. You know, I mean, everything that we teach is always glorious and is always good to have, you know what I mean? But for me, I want to perfect brotherhood, you know, and one day, you know, y'all might listen to me up here one day and be like, man, I remember this brother when he was young in it, and now look at him with these brotherhood scriptures, you know what I mean? One day y'all gonna see me and I'm gonna be tearing it up like that, you know. Pause. That sounded crazy. Yeah. But usually, you know, we take it all the way to 9 o'clock, but I gotta get out of here right now. Yeah, it was definitely a pleasure. And if you can, brother, you want to read these holy convocations with me? No. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. Slocky, I keep forgetting what your, you know, yeah, what your rank is. Hold on, let me get this together. All right. All right, let's see. All right. Here we go. These are the security announcements. All right. We are the ISUPK. Started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. All right. And the rule for new brothers and sisters: when a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers 18-21, Malachi 3, chapter 3, verse 8 through 10, means 10th in the Hebrew, Ma'asharah, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations. Okay, announcing holy convocations. Boom. All right, let's see. Give me a second. All right, so we have Feast of First Fruits. Starts after the Sabbath. Unleavened bread, sundown. No, that's the April one. All right. Count 50 days, celebrate the 50th day. Sunday, May 31st, 2026. Start before sundown. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 10 through 22. All right. And I believe that covers everything with that. Shalom.